Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patrick Allen, and I'm supervisor of DCRA of the Housing Proactive Division. And I'm here today to introduce you to our mobile inspections process and how that's conducted. Alongside with me is our inspector, Ms. Johnson, who's actually going to give the actual demonstration. But I wanted to just take this opportunity to introduce us as DCRA and actually this process that the director, our new director, Sharpa, has introduced to us. So, without further ado, I do want to take this time to say that this process has greatly improved how we conduct our inspections, and it is a needed asset to how we actually move forward in the city with actually addressing those housing code violations. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Mayor Bowser.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. It's good to see you, and I want to thank you for that introduction. And I know that we're going to meet Lakeitha shortly, who is going to show us what she does every day for the residents of the District of Columbia. And today we are here to witness a demonstration that is going to give us a sneak peek into future housing inspections in the district. DCRA is the agency that since my first term I have been very focused on making more efficient and more user-friendly. We've upgraded our permitting system to give customers the ability to pay online entirely, saving customers time and making the entire process less stressful. I appointed Director Chopra at the end of last year to be the new director of DCRA, and I charged him with continuing these improvements. In addition to making our processes more user-friendly, making sure the district is doing more and doing a better job at keeping pace with the growing demand of new construction and housing inspections. DCRA has its work cut out for it. The agency gets 150,000 inspection requests a year, but we also know how important it is to respond to these requests. We ensure by doing so that residents are living in safe housing conditions, and that landlords know that if they aren't responsive in addressing these issues, they will be held accountable. Today, we're going to see how DCRA has improved the inspection process by going digital. In making this digital transition, we can accomplish a few things. On the consumer protection side, we've streamlined the process, cut our enforcement timeline in half, and landlords are receiving infraction notices much sooner than before. On the innovation side, we are paving the way to launch a new pilot program that will allow qualified residents to receive training to help DCRA complete some of these inspections. We have seen with a sharing economy, we know how it works in other types of work in our city. And one of the biggest lessons that we've learned is that by getting ahead of these advances and building proper systems to support them, we can build programs safely and efficiently. Once trained, resident inspectors will be able to help us assess a range of issues, like a failure to provide an adequate water supply, or failure to maintain clean and safe properties. It's an ambitious program, future-leaning program, but one that we see a lot of potential in. And whenever we have the opportunity to make life better or less stressful for our residents, that's what we have charged DCRA to do. You're going to hear directly from Director Chopra in a moment. I want to thank the staff at the Fred A. Smith Company for allowing us to conduct this demonstration on their property, and also Paula McLean for allowing us inside her home. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Director Chopra. Then I'll take your questions. Then we're going to walk through for a brief demonstration. Director Chopra.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser, for your inspiring leadership and relentless pursuit in making our city a better place for all Washingtonians. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Babers, for your support, and to the staff at DCRA for embracing a culture of change. Ladies and gentlemen gathered here today, good afternoon. 7 months ago, We started Vision 2020 to fundamentally transform the delivery of our services and how we create value for our customers, including tenants and housing providers. In May, we announced a streamlined inspection process, and today we will showcase the innovation in service delivery that allows our housing inspectors to use a mobile app and iPads to be more efficient, and lays the foundation for the development of our pilot program for residents to become certified inspectors. The demand for inspections is robust, and we are projecting 150,000 annually. To meet this demand of our customers, we are in the process of developing stages of a pilot program to amplify our supply and capacity for inspections. The framework for the program would include classwork, field training, supervised inspections, and successful passing of an exam from DCRA and the International Code Council. Prospective trainers must be at least 18 years of age and have a high school diploma or GED. After successfully completing the program as a DCRA certified housing inspector, a resident can make northwards of $30 per inspection. This is an exciting time for DCRA, our customers, and our residents. By investing in our residents to become inspectors, our consumer protection efforts will be expanded and our protection of public safety will be further enhanced. Although this is a pilot we are developing, we will continue to iterate, find partnership with our sister agencies, labor, and organizations committed to public interest to accelerate our time to market. Again, thank you, Mayor Bowser, for providing the resources to make our digital transformation possible. At this time, we'll take a few questions and start the demonstration.
Thank you. Questions. Yes, sir.
Mayor Bowser, why didn't you join the governors of Maryland and Virginia in asking for the release of the ethics probe into Jack Evans?
I'm not really familiar with what they were doing when they sent the letter. I didn't know anything about it, nor would I have signed on to it.
Why wouldn't you have signed on to it?
I think they need to focus on Maryland and Virginia. Yes, sir.
Part of doing the housing inspections, will we be looking out for more accessible housing?
Come again, dear?
As part of doing the housing inspections, will we be inspecting for accessible housing so that more residents who need accessible housing can get accessible housing?
Okay, so the inspections are not really on the housing provision side, but the DCRA gets calls for inspections all the time to make sure that housing meets the code. So that's what we're talking about today. However, we're always talking about how we can produce more affordable units for people with all needs, and that's part of our Housing Production Trust Fund, our Preservation Fund, and Workforce Housing Fund initiatives. Yeah. Okay, let me take the press and then I'll get community, okay?
So on this topic here,
Yep.
I believe the director said the resident inspectors would get $30 per inspection. Is that how that works?
Yep, that's the idea.
And this is to help relieve the backlog of inspections. How big is that backlog? I mean, I know you said you're getting 150,000 requests per year, but right now, how many inspections are waiting to be done?
Let me ask the director to address that.
For emergencies, we send an inspector out right away. For routine inspections, it could be 2 to 3 week time frame.
Do you have a number of how many inspections are waiting to be done?
No, we don't have this thing called like a backlog, because if it is an emergency, we send staff out right away. If it's a routine inspection, we schedule it out based off our service level for 2 to 3 weeks out.
And Mayor Bowser, if I could return to the WMATA ethics investigation,
Yes.
Why? I mean, you said you think they should focus on Maryland, Virginia. According to their letter from the governors, they were focused on Maryland, Virginia. They're vested partners in Metro. They believe that there could be some ethics violations by the chairman of Metro.
Well, Mark, let me just say that Metro has a process. It has an ethics committee. And from what I understand of its process, the ethics committee did its work, and they declined to recommend any violations to the Metro code. So that's kind of the extent of what I know about it.
But the law firm, the independent investigation, did find what they determined to be numerous violations
Well, the law firm works for the committee, and I think that the committee had access to their presentation, had the ability to ask them questions, and they declined, and I don't know all the reasons, but they, I believe, didn't find that the evidence was persuasive that there were violations to the Metro's ethics code.
Do you believe politics played a role in the governor's, particularly Governor Hogan and his appointee, releasing this letter that is critical of Councilmember Evans? Do you think there's politics at play?
Listen, Councilmember Evans, for the last 4 years, has really been dogged about the states and the district doing what we needed to do to fund Metro's future, and he should be proud of that work. I have always said that the council member has an obligation to his constituents and all of us to be as forthright about these questions and deal with them head on, and I will continue to encourage him to do that. Yes, sir. Yes.
One, about the program today, what has been the response and how does that tie into your Back to Basics?
Well, thank you for that. It is Back to Basics week, and we're very focused. Just yesterday, we were talking about summer meal delivery and where residents can go throughout the city for kids 18 and under for free lunch and snacks. Today, we're talking about housing inspections, and it's just a reminder that there are 30,000 people working every day to make sure that basic government service delivery is happening. It's not something we talk about all the time or highlight all the time, but the work that our inspectors and the director is doing at DCRA is helping us make sure we have safe housing across the city.
I want to follow up with something slightly off topic. RFK Stadium, it seems there's been a push to possibly block your efforts to possibly move forward with at least an option to bring the Redskins here. Can you talk to me about that?
Well, we're not going to be sidetracked by any silly maneuvers by the council chairman. Let me just be very clear about that. We have, and I take very seriously my job to make sure I'm reclaiming land for DC residents. And to have land over 100 acres sitting fallow on the banks of the Anacostia River would be a crime.
Yeah.
It's not acceptable. So we support our Congresswoman's efforts that the district purchases that site at fair market value. We, of course, will negotiate the best deal for the district, and we will reclaim RFK for the District of Columbia.
But you're prepared to fight.
We will reclaim RFK. Just imagine this. We're talking about an affordable housing crisis in our city. We have an opportunity where we, the residents of the District of Columbia, decide the future of 100 acres, and we would pass that up. I think that would be that would be me shirking my duties as mayor, and I will never do that.
Mayor Bowser, do you have any concerns about what the law firm found, regardless of whether there's an ethics violation?
I haven't seen what the law firm found.
It found that Jack Evans ordered...
Have you seen a report from the law firm, or did you see a letter?
I saw that letter, and what that letter...
Okay, I haven't seen a report from the law firm.
That letter said that Jack Evans was being paid $50,000 a year from Colonial Parking, and then he asked OIG to investigate a competitor of Colonial Parking. Do you have any concerns about that?
I would be concerned about any conflicts of interest, but I will say that I am also concerned about the Metro process not being transparent. So if there is a report that you've seen, I haven't seen it. I've seen one member summarize the report. I've seen other members dispute that summary. So I think that we all need to be singing from the same hymn book.
Today, saying in no uncertain terms that Councilmember Chairman Evans, on 2 separate occasions, asked him to investigate a competitor of the business Colonial Parking who he was employed by. Does that not raise concerns for you?
What I don't know the circumstances of that. I think I've served on the Metro board and have had a occasion many times to ask critical questions on a number of issues before the board, and I'm not as familiar with Metro's disclosure requirements, and I think that's the question to be answered. Yes.
That's my question about what I meant by the housing inspector for the ADA. What I meant by is if the resident is going to perform the housing inspection, when he's walking through, would they be looking for the ADA and different things like that to make sure? I went to a ADA Mid-Atlantic conference, and I learned that per certain amount of housing, there should be also a certain amount where it would be accessible housing. Give an example, out of 30 units, maybe 10 of those units should be an ADA compliant unit. Will the residents be going throughout the ADA compliance units, making sure that those are ADA compliant too?
It would depend on what the call was for us to inspect. But I should say that we will, as in the pilot program for resident inspectors, the director will decide what type of inspections the resident inspectors will be going on. You heard me mention a few about what do you call it, turned off water and things likely on the outside of buildings, and then we will see how that works and then build on the program from there. I'll talk to you after.
Okay.
I see you have a number of questions, so let's move on to the next person. Here and here. Yes. For the resident inspectors, let's see if the director has that information now.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. With respect to the application process, we'll post a link online for interested residents to provide information, and then they will see the schedule of classes, and then we'll circle back with them so that when the classes start, they can be part of the program.
Yes.
How many openings are there, and should I get the word out in my community? That's number one. And number two is this modeled on any other programs, or is this unique? This idea of resident inspectors, I haven't heard of it.
It's new for us.
Is it elsewhere in the country? Have you?
To answer your first question, in terms of number of spots or number of slots, we are not keeping any artificial limits on it, because we want to be able to dynamically respond to service requests. So during peak times, we need a support system or a workforce that can take the surges in demand that our current full-time employees may not be able to get to quickly. So imagine 200 people are available and there's a service request a block from here. It's likely the closest person who's met the requirements will be dispatched to that service request. And to get to the second part of your question, what we are borrowing from is a playbook from the sharing economy. It's not been done anywhere else, but thanks to the resources and the leadership of Mayor Bowser, we are able to innovate, iterate, and create experiences not only for our residents, but also those who may want to develop a business around inspections. We provide licensing for small businesses at DCRA. So we look at this as also a pathway to the middle class. Start as a housing inspector, understand the dynamics of building a business, marketing, finance, supply chain, and build a business around inspections as the construction industry booms.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the RFK move. That's a great thing for the city. I guess my few questions are, what are the steps as far as training the team that you already have to make sure everyone has the same eye and inspecting the same way? And how do you weave through the residents that really have an eye out for finding owners and making sure those owners fail?
And finding owners? Mm-hmm. Say the last part of your question.
Finding owners, like, so as a residential inspector, mm-hmm. some people have an eye to make sure owner fails in that process. So
some people have an eye to make sure the owner fails?
Exactly.
Well, that's not somebody we want. We want somebody who has integrity and is going to look at the code and determine if there is a violation. So I think your question goes to how do we ensure integrity in the program? And I'm going to ask the director, because that when we've talked about this too. Okay.
I figured that would be the bullet points.
When it comes to ensuring the integrity of the program, we not only touch on that during the training process, but there is a code of conduct that is associated with the program. And then we have supervisors who will also do quality assurance. And beyond all of that, the technology allows us to ensure that we don't match people. So we are not going to match somebody who is related to the owner or the business owner of a particular location that is going to be inspected. And the district has a robust foundation for managing conflicts of interest, and we'll combine all of that to ensure that we are not only matching the qualified inspector to the housing need, but also doing follow-ups as necessary to ensure that the program is of a high fidelity.
Sam, there have been a lot of questions asked already.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully I'm not going to ask the same ones. But is this basically because the DCRA is so busy with all the building going on in the city? Is that the reason behind this?
Well, DCRA is very busy. There is a lot of building going on, and they also get a lot of requests from neighbors who want to make sure building is happening in the right way. So we're a growing city, and we can't use the same toolbox that we've used for decades when we are confronted with new challenges. So the director is bringing a new, fresh look at how we get this done, how we get more people working in the process, how we look at platforms that have worked in other ways. For when people say, I have a free 2 or 3 hours, put me on the list, and if I can pitch in, I'll learn this work, inspecting, and I can help the district in the process.
Some people compare this to Uber. Does that make sense?
Well, it's sharing, right? So just like somebody raises their hand and says, I need a ride, if there is a car close by, they can say, I want to give you that ride, and then there's a match. Similarly, DCRA will say there's a need for an inspection, and we will have a trained cadre of inspectors on a platform who can accept that job.
And they're not
right?
That's correct. And they're not part of the city payroll per se.
No, they would not be city employees, but I don't know how we're going to make the arrangement with them, but they will not be city employees.
Anybody else doing this?
No.
What's happening with the DCRA's efforts to prioritize problem properties or properties that would have more of a likelihood to have issues? This is what the mayor ordered after Sanford Capital and all that.
I mean, what is your question exactly?
What happened with the efforts to develop an algorithm to target problem properties for inspections?
Mm-hmm.
We are improving the algorithm so that it considers not only complaints, but also risk-based models. So in cases where there may be a spike in crime, we have to factor that into the model. In areas where there's been a rush of vacant properties, we have to factor that into the model. So it's part of this new culture of always learning, getting feedback, iterating, so that we can serve our residents better.
Is it in place yet, or is it still under development?
It's under development. At the same time, we've released a dashboard on our website where we provide visibility into the inspections that we've done, the notices of infraction, our performance measures, our key service indicators, and that is a step in the right direction.
Thank you, everybody. If there are other questions, I'll come back after the demonstration, okay?